Hey everybody, it's TJ DeSantis once again with the voice of mixed martial arts, a man who honestly, until you hear his voice say, "We are live," it's not really fight night. And of course, that man is Bruce Buffer back here on Cappers Direct. Bruce, an exciting mixed martial arts night headed everyone's way this Saturday. Back in what I honestly feel like is the hotbed of mixed martial arts, Southern California here in the United States. I feel like we probably have more MMA gyms per capita than anywhere else in the country. And I think it goes along with it. We have some of the most rabid fight fans here in the U.S.
Yeah, no, absolutely true. Even back in the early days when UFC 1 happened, the Huntington Beach area was a hotbed. Tank Abbott, Tito Ortiz training out of there, a lot of the people, and it just spread like wildfire as the UFC spread like wildfire all over the world. But yeah, we're definitely going to a hotbed. It's a hot show. I even understand that after the prices were originally released, the response was so strong, which I do credit Nate Diaz, the return of Nate Diaz in this exciting fight against Anthony Pettis. It's on the card along with all the other fights. People want to see this event, and the prices actually got raised at a certain point.
Any hot ticket event, you're going to have that third party market really drive the price up. And the Honda Center is definitely the place to be Saturday night. You already mentioned one fighter, Nate Diaz, finally making his return to the UFC's octagon. And it feels like it's been so long since we've last seen Nate. We've had some teases a little bit saying that he was going to come back, and then for whatever reason it didn't materialize, but it is definitely happening. He takes on former UFC and WEC lightweight champion and Anthony Showtime Pettis. When you look at Pettis, he's kind of a different style, but don't sleep on his ground game. I know Pettis is known for that Showtime kick and whatnot, Bruce, but the man has submissions, and I don't think that he's going to necessarily submit someone like Nate Diaz, but should the fight hit the floor, it isn't a foregone conclusion by any means that Nate Diaz is going to walk away with the victory on Saturday.
Yeah, it's not a foregone conclusion. It does go to the floor, like you said. I mean, let's face it, he is a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt, loves Jiu-Jitsu, lives the whole Jiu-Jitsu lifestyle. Anthony Pettis, making great forays into the welterweight division. Strong, definitely has submission techniques, but I definitely give the ground aspect of the fight to Nate Diaz. But Anthony Pettis, he just keeps coming on, looking better and better and better. It's pretty phenomenal. Who knows what's going to happen in this fight? But again, Nate Diaz is a huge draw. He's a true fighter's fighter.
I'm right there with you, and I think that we kind of have a bit of an experiment playing out in front of our eyes coming up on Saturday night with both of those guys in our co-main event. The question has long been asked: what would a fighter look like if he was fighting largely at his natural weight class, and would he do well there? And so far, so good for Anthony Pettis. He doesn't cut a tremendous amount of weight to make that 170-pound limit, so it's not like he's taxing his body at 155. And he's taking on Nate Diaz, who has fought primarily in his career at 155, but also Nate has had a long welterweight career in the past as well. So you see two guys sort of competing against one another in their natural weight class. And then when you go back and look at Nate Diaz, I mean, he's had a long time off. I think it's been like 7 or 8 fights Anthony Pettis has had since Nate Diaz actually competed. And some people say that you maybe, see the benefits of a fighter sort of sitting on the sidelines for a prolonged period of time. Some will say it's ring rust, Bruce. I know that, but I'm curious if we see a better Nate Diaz coming up here on Saturday night for his time off.
Well, what I call it is octagon rust. We all make that little mistake once in a while. But with that being said, and all you said is absolutely correct, there's just, some people are very unique as fighters, and Nate Diaz is one of them. More so than others in respect to his 24/7 fighting mentality. And the man being the triathlete that he is, the shape he stays in, I think it's like riding a bike with Nate Diaz. It just comes back quicker than it would for most fighters. But yeah, that's definitely an issue. We'll know about that issue if it has an effect on Nate. We'll know about it in the first 3 minutes of the fight, and we will see. But strong fight. Everybody wants to see him come back. And, then the other thing is, well, Nate was offered all these fights in the past. I saw a video of him last night talking about this. And he was saying, well, they offered me this, but the money wasn't this. It's very hard to match the kind of money he made facing Conor McGregor in that huge event, making the huge amount of money that he purportedly did make, and then coming back and fighting other opponents that are not the money draws at this point in their career that a Conor McGregor is at the point he is at in his career. So it's definitely going to be a downstep in the amount of money that he's probably going to be offered and make, but I'm sure he's getting paid quite well. being with the UFC as long as he has. And Nate would never have accepted the fight if he wasn't happy. But I
Right.
could see why maybe he didn't accept some of the other fights he was offered.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing too. You don't want a fighter coming back and competing in a matchup that he's not interested in being in. But obviously, Nate, a couple things probably happened for Nate. He realized, look, this is a good fight with good money, so I'm going to take advantage of that. But also,
Right.
too, you can't keep a Diaz brother on the sideline for that long without them wanting to come back and fight. And I know that this sidelining per se, Bruce, was largely on Nate Diaz, but I feel like if you're going to try to wait out Nate Diaz on, coming back and fighting, you're going to probably end up winning that battle because let's face it, the Diaz brothers just like to fight.
Yeah, they love to fight. Like I always like to joke around when you were in high school and somebody gave up their house for a big house party like they used to in high school and in college. And you heard that the Diaz brothers just walked through the front door, you know something's going to go down in the next few hours. It's like one of those reputations they carry wherever they go. And that reputation in this case is being the pre-ultimate professional fighters that they are, ready to go any day, any given time against anybody, no matter where.
We started near the top of the card with the co-main event, but I want to move one fight lower. A really fun fight at 185 pounds when we see former title challenger Yoel Romero come back after, I mean, this man has been through hell and back, winning a lawsuit, getting some redemption there. We've talked a lot about his settlement and companies and whether or not he'll actually make that money. But the bottom line is he doesn't have a suspension anymore. He can make money, and the way that he does that is by fighting middleweights. Romero, a guy that is always going to be in that number one, number two sort of contendership spot, unless someone like his opponent and Paulo Costa gets in his way and upsets the apple cart. This is a really big test for the Brazilian in Costa. And I mean, this is just a phenomenal fight. I think we already talked about our co-main event, but this would be a co-main event or a main event on any UFC on ESPN Plus type of card.
Yeah, no, I can't say it any better than you just said it. I mean, it's an exciting fight. We have two mastodons of the middleweight division coming in and going at each other. Paulo Costa happening to be one of my mother's favorite fighters. She can't wait to watch him fight on Saturday.
Really? I mean, is she just a fan of the physique? I know your mom likes the sleek, slim, fit fighters. I know that.
Well, she likes the way he fights, but he's very handsome, and she's definitely one of his favorite fighters as far as, oh, wow, look how handsome he is. She loves that. She loves that.
Yeah.
Actually, Paulo was very cute, and he made a video for her that I sent to her one time.
Oh, how great is that?
Yeah, well, he's a sweetheart. He's just one of those big fighting teddy bears, just a really, really nice guy.
And what's interesting, too, is Romero's largely the same, a very soft-spoken individual despite his hulking, presence. Like, you feel Yoel Romero enter the room, but when he speaks, it's a very, like, soft voice where it's not what you would expect from one of the most intimidating men at 185 pounds on the planet.
No, it's not. It's soft-spoken, very happy, walks in the room, and his happiness of loving a life the way he does it spreads to everybody. Just a really cool individual.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So let's talk about the big fight coming up on Saturday, the main event. It is a rematch. Daniel Cormier possibly entering what could be the final fight of his career. There have been rumblings. I mean, if we've learned to never say never in anything, I think mixed martial arts would be the fine example of expect the unexpected. So never say never that it is Daniel Cormier's last fight. But he takes on the former champ, the man that he beat to take the title, Stipe Miocic. This is a very close fight. I've talked to a lot of people that feel kind of in the middle, saying it could go either way. I've had a chance to chat with people that say no, it's 100% Daniel Cormier's fight. There are a lot of people that felt Stipe Miocic was going to win the first fight, and they think lightning won't strike twice. When you look at this fight, you have Daniel Cormier, who largely may be one of the best pound-for-pound fighters on the planet, taking statistically the best heavyweight in UFC history with his title defenses in the past. This is a sneaky good main event here to kick off the August slate of, pay-per-views for the Ultimate Fighting Championship. I have no idea what this fight's going to look like, Bruce, but I know you'll have the best seat in the house for this heavyweight fight.
May the best man win. I always say I'm an equal opportunity announcer. I'll go in and give them everything I have to get them both launched to a higher moment than they're already feeling at the moment that they enter the octagon. The bottom line is that Stipe did defend his title at heavyweight more than any other heavyweight champion in the history of the UFC. Daniel came in, surprisingly knocked Stipe out. I mean, surprisingly knocked Stipe out. All of us were like, oh, wow. Now, Daniel pulls things out from everywhere to win fights. Right? Except against John Jones, which I venture to guess, like styles dictate winners in fighting, John Jones will have the edge every time they meet, if they ever meet again.
Technically, though, going back to their last meeting, I think it was in the same building as this fight coming up on Saturday night. Cormier was very competitive with Jones in that fight. Actually, I think he showed some confidence in that fight, but unfortunately for him, he was knocked out. But the record books don't reflect that. It got wiped away.
Exactly. Now that Brock Lesnar's out of the picture, stalling the heavyweight division the way that situation did for the short time that it did. Daniel Cormier is fighting Stipe. Stipe is a fighter who has not fought since that fight, who has been back on the drawing board in training, doing everything he can. Don't take for granted the same thing's going to happen again. Stipe Miocic is going to come out with a vengeance, the biggest fight of his career. Daniel Cormier, again, one of the biggest fights of his career, pulling in fantastic paydays for himself. And really, after this fight, win or lose, the only fight that seems to reason or stand a reason for Daniel would be to fight John Jones.
Right.
So we will see if he retires after this or goes forward. But as I always say on the show, money talks and people walk. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm really excited for this fight for really, honestly, a variety of reasons. You have Daniel Cormier, who arguably could be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, mixed martial artists of all time. Statistically speaking, Stipe Miocic is the best heavyweight to ever grace the octagon, defending his titles more than anyone prior to his reign. And I'm sure Stipe Miocic doesn't like the idea that when we say he's one of the greatest heavyweights, that we say statistically that qualifier may go away if he's able to stop Daniel Cormier. And I'm sure that motivates him tremendously.
That backs up what I said again. It's more motivation coming out of the gate, coming off a loss. Everything is motivating to Stipe. Everything is motivating to Daniel Cormier, because Daniel Cormier is one of the true finest competitors I've ever met, who only thinks about winning.
Right.
But now he's combining the thoughts about winning with huge paychecks, as he rightfully should receive.
Yep.
So everybody's in a winning mode. Now it's about who's going to win.
Right. And Cormier, I mean, win, lose, or draw on a Saturday night, I don't know if he'll fight again, but I do know that we're never going to be rid of this man, because he's, in the commentary booth for almost all the pay-per-views, likable personality. He's really, the total package when you look at, what you want to be, what you want to strive to be in combat sports. And Daniel Cormier, while he may not be a fighter forever, here to stay, to say the least, Buff.
Daniel Cormier very much reminds me of Michael Strahan, the great NFL player.
Sure, yeah,
sliding into that
in
the Today Show, to all the shows that he does. I just worked with him at the Kids' Choice Awards last week. He's a friend of mine. He's been on the show. He's a friend of the show. And by the way, he wants to come on when he gets back in LA in September.
It's great.
But if you look at his career and you look at DC, it's very similar. The finest of the finest in what they played and what they competed at in sports.
Right.
To think beyond their guns and develop these careers, very likable, makes everybody smile. Amazing charisma. They resemble each other, and you're right. We will never be rid of Daniel Cormier, nor do we want to be rid of Daniel Cormier, because he does a great job commentating. Otherwise, I see great things in the future for Daniel Cormier.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Strahan. I could actually see Daniel Cormier breaking the mold like Kenny Florian has, who largely his entire broadcasting experience has been in mixed martial arts, and now you can catch Kenny on BattleBots. I could see Daniel Cormier, getting other gigs outside of combat sports just because he's that likable of a person.
Sky's the limit, and he has the it factor. He has charisma, and he has an amazing pedigree, which nobody should do anything but respect.
Right.
You can't question it.
So
there's no room for question.
No. Completely agree 100%. You mentioned Bruce allude to his show. This video is obviously on Cappers Direct, but we do a podcast every week. It's called It's Time. We've done it for 11 years. And as we wrap things up, we should maybe preview the show that is coming out this Thursday, if it's not out already, as people watch this. A fiery show, to say the least, Buff. We cover a variety of topics with Penthouse Pet Sam Phillips, and I I think I might have got under her skin a little bit. She was screaming and hollering.
Yeah, but that's what we love about Sammy. She speaks her mind. You never know what's going to come out of her mouth. She's beautiful. She's super intelligent. She's an actor, writer, director, penthouse pet. She does it all in the industry, and she's always fun to have on the show. She is one of all our listeners internationally. People love her, and it's always great to on the show. So I hope everybody tunes in. And it definitely was a volatile, interesting show today because we covered some very meaty subjects. And it is not a mixed martial arts show, folks. This is a lifestyle show. We talk about everything that went on in the week that was that's of note, and we rant and we rave.
We do. And Sammy's been on the show, I think, pretty much as long as I have, and I've been there since episode 1. So it's a fun show. It's Time with Bruce Buffer, available everywhere where podcasts are made. Buff, I got to ask, it's a hometown show for you. Anything special in the suit department? Have you made up your mind in what you're wearing in Anaheim on Saturday?
Actually, I haven't, and tomorrow is my day to decide. Metro PCS wants to buy the bow tie I wear, so now I got to pick a bow tie that I won't have after the show.
Dang, that's kind of hard, right?
It actually, you know what? Quite honestly, it is.
Yeah.
It actually is putting me in a bit of a stupor, is like what I wear, because I love some of my bow ties, and I don't want to give them up, even though they're paying a lot of money for it, But listen, everybody should have these kind of problems, right?
Right, exactly. We can all strive to have those kind of problems.
Right, exactly. So I'm not complaining, folks. It's all good.
Yeah, and if you have a problem, maybe you want to feel like a champion, you can actually reach out to Bruce Buffer through his website and get a championship introduction. It's pretty cheap, too. I mean, Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic, they got to, beat one of the best heavyweights that stand in front of them on Saturday night to be called the heavyweight champion. But if you want Bruce Buffer to do it for you, $99, Buff. You still got the special going on, right?
Yeah, no, I originally started it a couple of years ago just for Christmas, but the response was so tremendous. And I've been offered way much more money to do championship intros. And I do them both audio and video for the fans. But there's so many orders that come in. I haven't changed the prices. It's a way of giving back. And partial proceeds go to animal, military, and children's charities.
That's so
but
great.
Just go to brucebuffer.com. What is our special code, TJ?
I don't know. Rounds, I think? Rounds?
Rounds, yes. Put in special code rounds when you make your order. And I would love to do it for you. But check it out at brucebuffer.com. All the information's there, and there's samples of the recordings you get. But it's a keepsake for life, I feel, if you're a UFC fan.
There you go. Bruce, it's always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week back here in Cappers Direct, and excited to see you. And I guess that bow tie just maybe one final time in the octagon. But we'll talk to you next week.
I look forward to it, and it's always exciting to work in my backyard. I'll be down in Anaheim for the weigh-ins and such. Looking forward to it, folks. I'm going to be pumped up, and we're going to make this a great night. Fighters, they're going to fight their hearts out.